this is now a necessity for every business. And if it isn't a necessity right now, it has to be dealt with as a future requirement, because we're going to be made to work more efficiently. And again, I don't need to tell you, I think everyone has it, that Cloud Printer is going to give you the ability to do this overnight without much cost, without much effort, and the ability for you to obviously manage things moving forward. So environmentally, we always try and work with printers that can produce environmentally created products. That's not always possible because lamination techniques and other finishing techniques mean that sometimes there are components or additions to a job that mean it's not always as environmental as you possibly want it. But if it's required, where possible, we will fulfill it. The cutting of the carbon footprint is probably the biggest impact, and it's the easiest to calculate. You don't have to take our word for it. We can give you an online calculator, but there are plenty of them. If you want to pump in whatever it is that relates to your business and the products you're fulfilling, you will get a carbon footprint of where you sit back. And they are pretty accurate. You could probably scientifically argue over the percentages, but ultimately there is absolutely a dramatic reduction in your on your carbon footprint. So we estimate that we can reduce it by 95% plus on your current traditional approaches to producing products. And obviously that doesn't just impact things on an environmental level. Obviously financially it also helps as well. But more importantly, your service level agreements that you want to meet with your clients mean that you can ship and print almost immediately, because you've not got to worry about how the job gets from the print company to the destination, because it's being printed as close to that destination as possible. So we go back to all of the things that we talked about before, any kind of reduction in energy, in usage, in manpower, in footfall, in the use of carbon-based materials to get people around the world, it's all reduced. So I won't go into massive details anymore on that, but the last slide, which does demonstrate that, which is it's kind of a bit childlike, and I think that a 30-second pause from me is enough for you all to understand it. But for anyone who can't understand it, imagine that you're shipping 3 books from Barcelona into Amsterdam. You took a plane. There is naturally an amount of kilometers that are traveled by that plane as the crow flies to Amsterdam. And without dealing with the finer points, we've tried to keep this as generic as we can. We can get very granular if you wish. You're looking at about 2 kilograms of carbon emissions for that journey. Okay. In a car, it's more efficient on a carbon emission basis, but obviously it's going to take you longer to get there because a car doesn't travel as directly and doesn't travel as fast as a plane. So, you will forfeit one for another. But there's obviously 1,000 different scenarios we could introduce here if we put planes, trains, and automobiles together. But ultimately, to give you an idea, that's the kind of carbon offset you're looking at. Whereas what we would do is we would identify the nearest print partner to the final destination. In this case, Amsterdam. We do have printers in Amsterdam, but in the case we hadn't, imagine we were printing to a local partner who was in Utrecht, which is about 50 kilometers away from Amsterdam. Obviously, the only journey that's being made to get that to the door is in the car or the van that leaves Utrecht and goes straight to Amsterdam. So you can see at the bottom there that as a result of shipping directly to that locality, we've reduced almost to nothing the carbon emissions that are involved here. So outside of the carbon emission savings, just imagine the financial savings as well involved in this. Imagine the time, cost, and hassle that's taken out of the equation as well. And that could just as easily be 300,000 books, or it could be 2 posters. It doesn't matter what it is. But that just gives you a little pictorial indication of where it works. Now, don't take our figures for granted. Very welcome. We can run through these scenarios with you. Use something, Google it. Google carbon footprint calculator and do your own calculations. It's irrefutable. You cannot argue against it. And so, this is, if you think of nothing else, take this away as something to consider. Now, all of this will be available to you online as a recording of the session, and we can get more information to any of you if you want to have a one-to-one conversation with us or one of the regional managers that cover the pockets of activity across the world. But for now, please take that slide into your brain and think about it. because I think that you could do your own calculations and you're probably sitting there with your eyes rolling in the back of your head at the kind of efficiency and cost savings you could be looking at if you worked with us.